Tonight on Cronkite News, dozens gather at the Capitol today calling for the protection of Arizona's current vaccine policies. We'll tell you how opponents to the current rules want them changed.
Plus, the effort to revitalize a central Phoenix community, what the city is doing to change its reputation.
And Governor Hobbs announces a new plan to stop drugs from coming over the border into Arizona. We'll have the details on the new task force and just what it plans to do. Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Max Williams.
And I'm Caitlin Humphrey. Thank you for joining us. Arizona lawmakers are considering a number of bills that would loosen requirements around vaccines. People interested in the new rules gathered at the state capitol to explain why they believe vaccines are important. Emily Fox-Millian spoke to them. She joined us in the newsroom with more.
Several dozen people gathered at the Capitol today arguing that vaccines are a public health necessity. But many lawmakers and their supporters say the debate over vaccines has to do with personal freedom and, in some cases, individual health concerns. Families for Vaccines and AZ Physicians for Vaccines organized today's gathering and called for policies they say will prevent outbreaks of everything from measles to chickenpox and protect our vulnerable communities.
It's not that I don't want people to have personal choice. I want them to understand that their personal choices affect other people. And when good, healthy people can get vaccinated, it's most beneficial for everyone.
Erin Van Loo, who experienced the impact of vaccine policy firsthand after her husband was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago, believes the debate isn't just important, it's personal.
This is not about politics. It's not about Republicans and Democrats or RFK. For me, this is about a personal decision that people get to make that affects my family.
Our vaccine rate is still decent, but I would say threatened. It's at risk of tipping to a point where we could have a completely vaccine-preventable illness break out in Arizona.
There are at least 4 bills making their way through the legislature that impacts guidelines around vaccines in schools, workplaces, and foster homes. In a committee hearing, those in favor of one bill say it's a matter of personal choice.
With the well-documented shortages in healthcare workers, it is deeply concerning that such rigid policies are disqualifying capable and passionate individuals from entering critical fields like medicine. We cannot afford to turn away willing and talented individuals due to policies that do not accommodate personal health considerations.
Those in opposition warn that making it easier for individuals to opt out could put vulnerable populations at risk. According to the CDC, 86% of Arizona counties don't meet the 95% immunity level needed to prevent measles outbreaks. And MMR vaccine coverage among kindergartners dropped in 66% of counties this year. Other arguments for the various bills include religious freedoms and ethical concerns over how vaccines are created. In the newsroom, Emily Fox-Millian, Cronkite News.
Thanks, Emily. Governor Katie Hobbs has signed an executive order creating a task force aimed at tightening security along the U.S.-Mexico border.
The task force will be made up of several agencies, including the Arizona Departments of Emergency and Military Affairs and DPS. The Arizona Department of Homeland Security will also take part. Together, these agencies will patrol 4 border counties, including Yuma, Pima, Santa Cruz, and Cochise counties. This new task force will operate under the name Operation Desert Guardian. Their goal is to stop human and drug trafficking along the U.S.-Mexico border.
And if you're planning a road trip for spring break, you should know about how much you might have to pay at the pump. Gas prices here in the valley have increased steadily since the start of the year. The average price of an unleaded gallon of gas has increased by 40 cents to $3.53 compared to last month, according to Gas Buddy data. Today, the average price of gas in Maricopa County is $3.62, while the national average is $3.14. That's according to AAA. Furthermore, maintenance of several refineries in California, where Arizona gets a majority of its gas from, will impact the supply of gas in the state.
Phone scams are on the rise, and Arizona was one of the hardest hit states in 2024. Scammers are finding new ways to steal money through things like text messages, and the losses are staggering. Skylar Heisey breaks down the numbers and tells us how to protect ourselves.
Arizona ranks 3rd in the nation for phone scams, with Tucson among the hardest hit cities. Phone scams have cost Americans nearly $700 million, with victims losing an average of $1,500. It's a growing problem, and experts say awareness is key to staying safe. So, what can you do? According to Professor Rong Pan from ASU's School of Computing and Augmented Intelligence, you should check emails and phone numbers before responding. Be cautious of links and attachments and report any suspicious messages as spam. If something seems off, contact the companies directly. Staying vigilant is the best defense against scammers. Scammers are getting smarter, even copying voices through AI, but you can stay alert. Don't let yourself become the next victim. From the Google touchscreen, I'm Skylar Heisey, Cronkite News.
Thanks, Skylar. 27th Avenue in Phoenix is notorious for drug and crime activity and prostitution, but through a coalition effort led by Grand Canyon University, the surrounding areas will see some changes. Cronkite News reporter Ripley Simone Kinnebrew spoke with GCU and scoped out the area to see what these updates will look like.
The safety and quality of life is one of the biggest concerns for residents who live around the track. Over the past decade, GCU has invested $170 million along 27th Avenue on redevelopment efforts. Efforts began in December of 2011 with the end of a U.S. Department of Justice crime prevention program. For the next 9 years, the Christian University purchased, renovated, and/or opened spaces for the GCU Hotel, a GCU CityServe warehouse that provides free household goods to families in need, classroom and training spaces, and more. After the formation of 27 Collab in April of 2024 and the seizing and shutdown of the Royal Inn, an epicenter of prostitution and drug trafficking activity by the FBI and U.S. Marshal Services in September of 2024, the community has seen a drastic change. More recent efforts include the opening of Rehoboth Place 2, a collection of affordable housing near 27th and Camelback, and a public safety substation for GCU and Phoenix PD officers to share. Areas along 27th Avenue, specifically at Missouri Avenue, will see improvements like this. And on other roads, bike lanes and bus shelters, school safety zones, additional video cameras and lighting, and new businesses to fill vacant lots. In order to fulfill some improvements, resources from local law enforcement will be used. Sergeant Brian Bauer explains the involvement of Phoenix PD with this effort.
So the Phoenix Police Department's obligation in this is not just the serving as public safety for our community members along the 27th Avenue, but it's being as proactive as possible to make sure that the crime that's in that area, the crime along 27th Avenue, is as minimalized as possible, using our resources, but also thinking outside the box.
A short-term goal of Phoenix PD is crime reduction, but long-term, community involvement.
Our long-term effort is going to be the proactive approach where we're having and encouraging community members from across the city to be more involved with what takes place in the community.
GCU President Brian Miller says they want to provide support for victims of sex trafficking. Students and families should not be subject to this type of criminal activity just because they live at 27th Avenue and Camelback instead of a more affluent area like 24th Street and Camelback. In Phoenix, Ripley Simone Kinnebrew, Cronkite News.
The 27th Avenue corridor stretches from Indian School Road to Northern Avenue and is home to around 30,000 students from kindergarten to college. Coming up next, your next trip to a state park here in Arizona might cost you a little bit more.
Plus, how the recent layoffs by the Trump administration are affecting the National Park Service. We'll tell you how those terminated workers are responding after the break.
And if you're planning on going out to a state or national park this week, it could get hot out there. This week's forecast is next after the break.
People have always had trouble trying to put me into a box. A professor, suit and tie is just not me. Without the ocean, I don't know what I would do. You know, the ocean's always been there for me. As Hawaiian people, we believe that the coral is the first living being to come out of the darkness. It's the foundation of our entire lifestyle, and that's what my research is about. What we do is we take photographs of the reef over long periods of time to create models that can tell us what the planet is doing. If we go deaf to what the Earth is telling us, then we'll never be able to live in harmony. If I can get my students excited about protecting the ocean, then they're the ones who are gonna really make the difference. I hope my students realize that I'm not trying to prepare them for something in the distant future. Their time is now at Arizona State University.
Recent studies suggest consumer confidence has fallen and fears of inflation are rising in the U.S. But this negative perception of the economy could hamper President Trump's efforts to accomplish his campaign goal of keeping prices under control. This comes from a study released Tuesday from the Consumer Board, which noted the index fell to 98.3, marking the third straight month of the index decreasing. This negative perception of the economy can lead to real impacts as central bankers monitor this perception and adjust their spending accordingly.
Terminated federal workers are voicing their frustration with the Trump administration, and one group of workers who were fired from Yosemite National Park took to El Capitan to protest their termination. Workers laid an upside-down American flag hanging off the side of El Capitan. The terminated workers who put it there say it's a call to help and protect public lands and to reinstate workers of the Park Service that were fired. Protests have erupted all over the country recently to object the firings by the Trump administration. Experts warn the decrease of personnel at national parks could lead to longer wait times to get in, safety issues, and more.
Back here in Arizona, the previously announced increase to state park entrance fees takes effect today. Officials from the Arizona State Parks and Trails say that the increase will help maintain the parks as well as funding the new opening ones. Not just entry fees, but also camping fees, pricing for tours at certain parks, and more have been raised. Part of the change is removing a $75 annual pass with limitations. Now the only option when buying a pass is a $200 option that allows entry to all parks for 1 year. Arizona State Parks and Trails does not rely on public funding or taxpayer money.
Speaking of state and national parks, Arizona has a ton to enjoy during the beautiful weather we have coming up this weekend.
Quentin Presley joins us now from the Cronkite Weather Center with what we can expect.
Thanks so much, Caitlin, and you're absolutely correct. We have some favorable temperatures on the horizon, which are going to be perfect to head into those state parks with the family and checking out the scenery. But first off, what does this evening have in store for us tonight? So at 81 degrees right now, and we're going to be seeing a 3-degree decline per hour, ending out about 10 at 72 degrees. Nice and crisp, something to look forward to. Next off, checking out tomorrow's lower temps. Here in Yuma, Arizona, 61 degrees. That's a little bit of foreshadowing for what we're going to see down there. Whereas the northern part of the state, Grand Canyon, Page, and Window Rock, right there, 15 degrees. To be nice and cool, straying away from that hotter weekend that we previously just went through. Like always, kicking it up a notch. Let's see what the highs are for tomorrow. And we have a leader. Like I said, Yuma foreshadowed, and they're going to be leading us off 92 degrees. That's hot. Whereas Phoenix and Gila Bend are at 89 right behind it. That is 16 degrees higher than the average. But what does this future weekend have in store for us? Friday's going to set the tone for the weekend, 84 degrees and cloudy, where Saturday, Sunday, and Monday all going to be in that nice 70-degree range, which is going to be perfect for going outside. Tuesday and Wednesday, 71 and 76 respectively, will round out this 8-day forecast. At the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Quentin Presley, sending it back to the desk.
The Blue Ghost lunar lander shared some stunning, never-before-seen close-up photos of our moon. The privately owned American spacecraft took photos of the Earth and the moon's dark side, which is not visible from Earth. This gave us an interesting and detailed look at the lesser-known side of the moon. These images show the moon's surface covers in boulders and impact craters. The Blue Ghost also took images of the moon's south pole. MIT University is also planning to send 3 payloads into space headed for the moon's south pole. They're planning to search for frozen water. Blue Ghost, the satellite that took the images, will also attempt a moon landing on March 2nd in order to gather data.
And going from the moon to Mercury, newly acquired Alyssa Thomas was introduced as a member of the Mercury today.
While the Mercury are welcoming in an all-star, they do say goodbye to an all-time great. Find out who on Cronkite News.
People have always had trouble trying to put me into a box. A professor, suit and tie is just not me. Without the ocean, I don't know what I would do. You know, the ocean's always been there for me. As Hawaiian people, we believe that the coral is the first living being to come out of the darkness. It's the foundation of our entire lifestyle, and that's what my research is about. What we do is we take photographs of the reef over long periods of time to create models that can tell us what the planet is doing. If we go deaf to what the Earth is telling us, then we'll never be able to live in harmony. If I can get my students excited about protecting the ocean, then they're the ones who are gonna really make the difference. I hope my students realize that I'm not trying to prepare them for something in the distant future. Their time is now at Arizona State University.
Welcome to the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Genaro Garcia. We start with big news from the Phoenix Mercury, an announcement we knew was coming. The team says goodbye to one of their greats while also welcoming another. Cronkite Sports reporter Ben Parrish joins us in the studio with news of the retirement of one of the best players to ever have played the game.
That's right, Diana Taurasi has officially retired. The news broke around 3 o'clock this afternoon, and team owner Matt Ishbier released a statement saying, quote, "Diana is the greatest to have ever played the game. I've been a fan of her my entire life. She's the ultimate leader and teammate." Taurasi told Time magazine, quote, "Mentally and physically, I'm just full. I'm full and I'm happy." This all comes hours after the Mercury introduced arguably their biggest acquisition of the offseason. Welcomed five-time WNBA All-Star Alyssa Thomas to the team on Monday, and they continue to build their roster for the upcoming 2025 season. The 11-year WNBA veteran, who holds the league's all-time records in both regular season and playoff triple-doubles, is excited to bring her versatile playing style to the next era of Mercury basketball.
I don't plan to be any different than I've been in my past team in Connecticut. I'm trying to win. I don't want to drop off. I want to continue to play at the same level, be in playoffs, and the goal is a championship.
The 32-year-old forward had spent her entire career with the Connecticut Sun before being dealt to the Mercury in a 4-team deal, and she'll replace Brittany Griner's spot in the lineup. She was also a part of the gold medal-winning USA women's basketball team with the Mercury's Kalia Copper last summer in Paris. Now she'll make up the Mercury's new big three alongside Copper and Satu Sabali. In the studio, Ben Parrish, Cronkite News.
The Diamondbacks' Mike Hazen stopped by ASU's law school recently. The GM spoke to students in the sports and law business program as part of the CLIG Speaker Series. Cronkite News reporter Krupa Holman attended the event and has more on the mindset of building a winning franchise.
D-backs general manager Mike Hazen got a few laughs while speaking to ASU students about leadership in sports. Hazen knows all too well that winning championships in Major League Baseball is no laughing matter. 2 years ago, his team was playing in the World Series, but last year, the D-backs were watching the playoffs from home. It's Hazen's job to put each season in perspective and prioritize what's best for his squad.
I think it's our responsibility, being stewards of the franchise, to always focus on the long term. But when you have the team that we have now, you also have to have the ability to push in and add as much talent as you can to try to win when you have the opportunity to win.
In this very hall, the CLIG Speaker Series has hosted a many of guests, including Suns general manager James Jones, the Arizona Cardinals owner Michael Bidwell, and most recently, Mike Hazen. The Sports Law and Business Program Director Aaron Hernandez has sat in for all of them.
and found a common theme.
You know, they're all wonderful leaders. They're all super gritty. They're very stubborn. They're resilient. And my mom always told me that I'm stubborn, and sometimes that's a good thing. And so I try to emulate how gritty they are, how stubborn they are in their careers to get to their goals.
Program coordinator Griffin Lemonjelly has helped organize multiple Sea League speakers. This year, Lemonjelly was most impressed with Hazen's humility.
And he mentioned a lot of great things about leadership. You know, he doesn't know everything. Building people around you that may know more than you and aren't even in your role is so valuable, which just goes to show you're not above anybody. You're always going to be learning from other people around you, and I think that's kind of a key to getting to a leadership role like that.
And with Hazen's leadership, the Diamondbacks are hoping to be back in the hunt for another postseason run. In Phoenix, Cooper Holman, Cronkite News.
It took some time, but after 4 games, the Diamondbacks have notched themselves into the win column for the first time in the 2025 Cactus League. The Diamondbacks beat the Cleveland Guardians 4-3 at Salt River Fields yesterday afternoon with a strong debut from Corbin Carroll. The D-backs were held scoreless through 4 innings when Carroll hit a 423-foot homer to right center to ignite the offense. The following inning, the D-backs would score off a sacrifice fly and a double by Eugenio Suarez. The first win of the spring season for the D-backs could be attributed to a guest speaker who came to visit the team on Monday. ASU football head coach Kenny Dillingham visited the Diamondbacks clubhouse, and it's safe to say he left a strong impression on the team.
Competitiveness, okay? We compete in everything because competitors compete, bottom line. And you either want to win or you accept losing.
Get in the building. I see what makes them special. There's a ton of energy. There's a ton of passion. There's a ton of direction. And we left this building today. We got better with his message.
ASU football is fresh off an impressive 11-win season this year, and many in the Valley are hopeful of another college football playoff run. The Sun Devils fell out of national championship contention following a heartbreaking overtime loss to Texas in the Peach Bowl. Cronkite News reporter Roman Martinez was in Tempe to see the current state of the team.
Arizona State football is back to work this spring with a renewed team spirit following the success of last year's accomplishments. With players following head coach Kenny Dillingham's mantra of playing for one another, the current team culture gives them an opportunity to lead.
Some of the stuff that we've been preaching and trying to get the culture right is actually getting right, which is like, okay, well, now where can we insert ourselves without hurting leadership? Because we have so many returners, the more I talk to our team, the more I have to lead our team, the more I'm taking away of an opportunity for somebody who's returning to lead.
Not only does Dillingham have players buying into the system, but coaches as well. His influence since returning to Arizona stretches far and wide, from players to coaches and fans, which has transformed the Sun Devils into a winning program.
He is that beacon. I mean, he's a kid that grew up here. He's a kid that believes in Arizona State. He believes in the Valley of the Sun. He totally encompasses everything that is the Valley.
With a promising future ahead and an activated Valley, the program has many optimistic of what's to come with the mostly returning squad.
They kind of set this Valley back on fire and got people to believe again. And then you bring them, most of that group back, minus a couple key players. You know, that's going to be fun to see how this goes, if they can keep winning and stay there. And I believe they will. There's no reason why they shouldn't.
With high expectations to retain the Big 12 championship, ASU looks to live up to the standard they have set. In Tempe, Roman Martinez, Cronkite News.
Well, that's it for the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Renato Garcia, sending it back to you guys at the desk.
Coming up next, their friends will fly, not run, to the upcoming baby shower.
That's right, Max. A mating pair of eagles is expecting their 3 eggs to hatch soon. Stay tuned after the break to learn more about the soon-to-be avian parents.
People have always had trouble trying to put me into a box. A professor, suit and tie is just not me. Without the ocean, I don't know what I would do. You know, the ocean's always been there for me. As Hawaiian people, we believe that the coral is the first living being to come out of the darkness. It's the foundation of our entire lifestyle, and that's what my research is about. What we do is we take photographs of the reef over long periods of time to create models that can tell us what the planet is doing. If we go deaf to what the Earth is telling us, then we'll never be able to live in harmony. If I can get my students excited about protecting the ocean, then they're the ones who are gonna really make the difference. I hope my students realize that I'm not trying to prepare them for something in the distant future. Their time is now at Arizona State University.
Jackie and Shadow are two famous eagles from Big Bear Valley, California, who have some exciting news to share with the world. They're nested beside the infamous Eagle Cam in Big Bear, California, live streaming their nest, and those watching their YouTube live stream found something a little interesting.
Jackie and Shadow were seen in their nest joined by 3 eggs, meaning the 2 avian celebrities are now soon to be parents of a set of triplets. This is the 2nd year in a row that the Eagles have laid 3 eggs at once, and this time around they're expected to hatch soon. You can watch their live stream on YouTube as their soon-to-be family go about their days.
That's it for tonight's edition of Cronkite News. I'm Max Williams.
And I'm Caitlin Humphrey. Thank you for joining us.
And to see top Arizona stories anytime, log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.